discussion, there's two central midfielders I wanted to touch on with you. Two players at sort of different ends of their career, where you've got Alex Scott, a young, exciting English talent, 22 years old, and you've got Bruno Guimarães at Newcastle, 29. This has been ruffling feathers among Newcastle fans. I thought they might lose Tonali and then Bruno as well this summer, but it seems like Arsenal are pretty serious about their interest in this Brazilian.
They are, like I explained before, we've already got two targets. There will be other targets that we probably don't know about just yet. But yeah, you do mention at both ends of the scale. Alex Scott, the information we have on that at the moment is that Bournemouth don't want to sell in this transfer window, but the problem that they've got, he's into the final 2 years of his contract, and the information we have is he's not going to agree terms on a new deal. So do Bournemouth say, no, we've still got that 1 year insurance, if you like, at the end of this season? But that's a risk in itself, because then Alex Scott could then find himself in a position to say, actually, I'll just see out the remainder of this contract. I'll be 24, I'll still have some fantastic years ahead of me, and I won't have any transfer fee attached with me. So that's the risk whenever a player enters the final 2 years of a contract. It feels like a dangerous time period now. Before, it was just like 1 year left on your contract. Yeah. Now they're looking at 2 years. So even when players got 3 years left, you're hearing about extensions of contracts, even that far out from when their deal's expiring. So there's definitely an interest there. They'll definitely face competition, not least the fact that Bournemouth don't want to sell in this transfer window. But you know, the will of the player, is that going to play a part as well? Bruno Guimarães is a name that just will not go away. There's been so many conflicting reports about where we are with this deal. Some have reported that Arsenal have made 2 bids, both of which have been rejected, and that there's been club-to-club talks between Arsenal and Newcastle. I've spoken to Keith Downey, who's spoken to, who knows everything that's going on at the Newcastle end. No contacts, no bids from Arsenal officially. Everything has happened via intermediaries at the moment. So people will say, well, why don't they just go and speak to Newcastle? Listen, sometimes transfers, even though we don't want to admit almost that that's how it works, but sometimes this is how it works. You don't usually get a club approaching a club without any knowledge of whether the player wants to go or not. So the club, once the club speaks to say Arsenal spoke to Newcastle.
One to watch. Does he think Arsenal are the biggest club in London? I know Morgan Rogers thinks it's Chelsea, but just wondering if they'd asked him that question as well.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's going to follow him around now, isn't it? I mean, Arsenal played Chelsea,
very early on, September 5th, I think it is, yeah.
It's that second game of the season, isn't
it? Third game
so
of the season. Arsenal have got Coventry, Villa, and then Chelsea. So, yeah.
I mean, he can probably get a bad reception from the Arsenal fans for saying that. I don't think he can get a bad reception for not going to Arsenal, because it's kind of out of his hands, because Arsenal could have signed Morgan Rogers, but they decided we're not going to meet that valuation. So
there we go. Sam, we were talking about sort of the creative areas and how Arsenal use the ball. I just wanted to get thoughts from you on a few of the youngsters who we've seen over the past couple of seasons. Even Ranieri, 19 years old now. He didn't have a great loan spell in Marseille in the second half of last season. Obviously Max Dowman, the thrills and excitement that he brought last season at 16 years old, and that goal against Everton. And obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly, who looked like he was out of the picture after that previously promising season, and then he sort of battled his way back into the team and was there for the Champions League final as well, wasn't he? Again, 19 years old. So these young players that we've got excited about over the recent times, where do they stand going into this season? Can they play a meaningful role for Arsenal in this coming year?
Well, it's really interesting that the big one that stands out is Nwaneri. What do Arsenal do? Do they stick or do they twist? Now, Nwaneri's going to be very interesting in the Bukayo Saka side of things. Obviously, we've seen that Bukayo Saka can't really train 2 days in a row at the moment. We saw that with Arsenal. We saw that with England at the World Cup. And if Saka needs a bit of time to get back up to full speed and get back up to 100% over the summer, maybe Nwaneri is a player who maybe acts as a bit of cover alongside Madueke and alongside Max Dowman as well. The other thing with Nwaneri is that Arsenal, as we've said, they don't currently have many players in pre-season at the moment. So that's going to be a real opportunity for Waneri to maybe start in Odegaard and Eze's position and say, look, this is what I can do. Yeah, I didn't have a good time at Marseille last time. I think Mikel Arteta actually said he maybe regretted letting Waneri go because Marino got injured a few weeks later and Havertz took a little bit longer to come back from injury as well. Obviously, they sent him there to work with Roberto De Zerbi, and he left Marseille a few weeks later and is now coincidentally at Spurs. But the other thing with Waneri is Daumann's there. And do you really want to halt Daumann's progression by playing someone who's so similar? He plays on the right, he plays as attacking midfielder. That is a big issue there. So what do Arsenal do? Do they cash in on maybe Waneri, who's maybe doesn't have Daumann's ceiling? And then Lewis Skelly is the big conundrum. As you rightly said, there were actually links with him to Manchester United and whether he would solve United's left-back issue at the moment. But then he had that resurgence in central midfield. But then what if Arsenal go and sign Bruno Guimarães? Then your central midfielders are Guimarães, Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi, Mikel Merino. They're all massively important and valued by Mikel Arteta. Do you then go, and then what do you do if you're Miles Lewis-Skelly? And then you've got Christian Norgard to think about as well, who's also in the mix and sort of waiting on the sidelines. So difficult decisions to come out. I don't know if you have any sort of transfer updates.
I mean, Waneri's definitely going to be one to watch.
Yeah.
Because for Arsenal to start the season, last season, for him to sign a new contract and then go out and buy Noni Madueke, I think Waneri probably would have accepted, Saka's number one, fine. I can play back up to Saka. I'll get games, I'll get plenty of them because there's so many competitions. But then when Madueke comes in and he's clearly going to be ahead of Waneri, he must have thought, what is going on here? So the loan, on the face of it, was the right thing to do for all parties. Didn't work out as he would have liked and would have expected, and he's probably watching on almost enviously while Max Daumann is taking all the plaudits. When we were actually talking about Ethan Waneri before Max Daumann in the same way, weren't we? We
Absolutely,
were like, this guy is going to be
the wonder kid,
the one that comes through.
Yeah.
So the other interesting point to be made about players like Waneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly, homegrown, and there's pure profit to be made on these players. That's when the decision makers have to say, if you want to go big in the market and maybe buy a Bruno Guimarães, or maybe go in for someone like Alex Scott, maybe, dare I say it, try and get Julian Alvarez or anyone else that's going to cost big money, there's going to have to be sales as well. I think we accepted that from the start of this transfer window, because last summer they kept that squad together, but they knew that they wouldn't be able to, they'd be able to spend that same amount of money provided there were sales this time.
Yeah.
So there are going to be some outgoings at Arsenal.